Good morning everyone. Last time we discussed about what is the endocrine system, what are the various hormones which are released by endocrine glands. Then we discussed about that what is puberty and what are the different type of changes that generally occur during puberty. Now today we will discuss about reproductive phase. Now what is this reproductive phase? Reproductive phase means when or during the period of puberty, human beings they become biologically prepared for reproduction, as this is the period or within the puberty adolescents they enter the reproductive phase of life. Now what is the meaning of entering into the reproductive phase of life? Actually what happens when there are certain hormones which are called sex hormones that control or that help in the development and control of reproductive organs and secondary sexual characteristics. So these hormones they basically stimulate the production of certain hormones of reproductive organs within male and female. So as a result what happens? This reproductive phase of life generally occurs. Now as we know that the male reproductive organ, that is testes, it releases a hormone called testosterone which stimulate the production of sperm in male, whereas in case of female, the female reproductive organ, that is ovary, it releases a hormone estrogen then which stimulate. Now what is the meaning of stimulate? Stimulate means which will active the release of ova. So with the release of sperm and ova, they basically start or they basically initiate the process of reproductive phase. So this is all about reproductive phase. Now the beginning of this reproductive phase in case of female, it starts with menstrual cycle. So let us first discuss that what is this menstrual cycle and what are the various steps or what are this process is all about. So let us first discuss menstrual cycle. In menstrual cycle, basically when the menstrual cycle starts, it indicates that a girl is now biologically ready to become pregnant and have a baby. So it is basically initiative or it initiates the process of reproduction. Now what is this menstrual cycle? Well, within the menstrual cycle, what happens? The ova, it is released by one of the ovaries in approximate 28 to 30 days. So what is menstrual cycle? It is the cycle of producing and releasing mature ova together with associated changes in the ovaries and uterus. So menstrual cycle, this cycle basically completes in 28 to 30 days. However, it also differs. It all depends upon the hormones. So generally a cycle is of 28 to 30 days, but it can differ from individual to individual depending upon the hormones. Now let us discuss what are the various processes which are related with the menstrual cycle. So one by one let us discuss all the processes. Now let us study about the various changes that takes place during the menstrual cycle. So the first step in the menstrual cycle is ovulation. Now what is ovulation? Ovulation is the process of release of mature ova by one of the ovaries. One of the ovaries or each ovary take turn in menstrual cycle. As there are two ovaries, there are pair of ovaries. So each ovary every month take turn to release this mature ovum. So the process of releasing this mature ovum by ovaries is known as ovulation. So this is the first step or this is the first change that usually occurs during the period of menstrual cycle. Now what happens next? After releasing the mature ova, there are two hormones named as estrogen and progesterone. As you can see, the pronunciation of this word is estrogen. The O silent. So these two hormones, they are released by ovaries. Now why are they being released by ovaries? Estrogen and progesterone, they stimulate the lining of uterus, which prepare itself for the possible pregnancy. So second step is release of estrogen and progesterone by ovary. And what are estrogen and progesterone? These are hormones, and these hormones are released by, yes, these are released by ovaries. Now next step, the ovum then begins to move from ovary to fallopian tube. After releasing ovum, this ovum, it starts moving down from ovary into the fallopian tube. Now what will happen next? If there will be no fertilization, means if the ovum, it is not fertilized by sperm, then hormone level suddenly it drops down, and as a result, when this hormone level it drops down, the lining of uterus, it generally shed off with blood. So what is the next step? Next phase is of shedding of uterus lining and bleeding, and this is the phase of bleeding which is known as menstruation. Well, this period of menstruation, it usually lasts for about 4 to 6 days. Now, in the girls aged between 10 to 15 years, the first menstrual cycle or the first menstruation, it is known as menarche. What it is called as? It is called as menarche. The first menstruation in girls around 10 to 15 years of age is known as menarche, whereas in the age group of 45 to 55 years, this process of menstruation usually stops, and the phase in which this period of menstruation stops is known as menopause. So this is all about menstrual cycle and what are the associated changes. The definition we have done of menstrual cycle is the release of mature ovum by ovary and the associated changes. So these are the changes which are related with the release of ovum by the mature ovary. Now next topic, let's talk about nutritional requirements and personal hygiene. Well, before starting with the nutritional requirement and personal hygiene, let us first understood that how we can explain the process of menstruation or the menstrual cycle with the help of diagram. So, how this diagram can explain the menstrual cycle? Now, as we have learned that the menstrual cycle is of 28 days. So, as you can see, I made 28 lines here in this circle. Now, what the circle and the lines they usually represent? Let me tell you. So, first we'll start with first 5 days. So, as to distinguish these 5 days from others, I made a different these lines as in a different pattern or different manner. So these 5 days, they basically represent the lining of uterus when it is shed, means the menstruation period, when the lining of the uterus, when it is shed along with the blood, then that's called menstruation. So in the menstrual cycle, which is of 28 days, these are first 5 days, as these are of these are the days where the lining of the uterus is shed. Now, from the 6th day till 12th day, there is no major change. When the bleeding stops, that is on the 5th day, usually no major change will occur from 6th to 12th day. Now, after the 12th day, from 13th to 15th day, this period of the cycle, it is said to be the ovulation period. Why it is called ovulation period? Because in this, ovum is released by ovaries. So this period of ovulation generally occurs from 13th day to 15th day. Then afterwards, that is from 16th to 28th, what will happen? If the ovum which is released by ovary, if it does not fertilize, then automatically this ovum, it will die and disintegrate. So what happened? From 16th day to 28th day, the ovum, it moved down from ovary, then into fallopian tube, finally into uterus. So from this diagram, we can get this idea that how menstrual cycle usually works. So this is all about menstrual cycle. So now we will start next topic, that is nutritional requirement and personal hygiene. So now next topic is nutritional requirement and personal hygiene. But till now we have already discussed that this is the period, adolescence is the period when the maximum changes usually occur within the body. So to maintain a healthy lifestyle during this period, it is very important, especially for the adolescents. So what they can do to maintain their healthy lifestyle? So they can easily maintain this healthiness by keeping nutritional requirement, how they can keep their or how they can maintain their nutritional requirement, and personal hygiene. So there are certain methods which we will discuss, which will help them to keep themselves healthy and fit during the period of adolescence. Well, first thing is, it is very important for the teenagers to do regular physical exercise. And what are the physical exercise that can be done? For example, brisk walking, jogging, cycling, swimming. These are some of the exercises which can be included in our day-to-day routine. Then a balanced diet. It is very important for the adolescents to actually include a healthy and a balanced diet in their routine, and to avoid junk or oily food. Also in this period or during this period of adolescence, as the activity of sweat and sebaceous gland is very high, as a result it may lead to a body odor. So chances of getting fungal and bacterial infection is especially high during this period. So what can be done to avoid this problem? Well, it's very simple. It is very important to take bath every day. This is such a simple step, but it can protect us from a lot of diseases. So this is all about nutritional requirement and personal hygiene, especially in context of this period, that is adolescence. So now let's move on to the last topic. Now next topic that we will discuss is drugs and AIDS. Well, what is a drug? Drug is a chemical substance which brings about a change in physical, mental and emotional in the user. So what is a drug? Drug is a chemical substance which brings about a change in physical, mental, emotional change in the user. Now you must have heard about the term drug abuse. So what is a drug abuse? Taking drugs apart from the medical treatment is known as drug abuse. Means if the drug is consumed apart from medical treatment, then it is considered, or then it will come under the category of drug abuse. Now many of the drugs or many of these drugs, they are highly addictive. So it is very difficult to get out of this addiction. So this is the reason why it is one of the most burning topic among the youth, or it is one of the problem which are generally faced by today's youngsters. Now, the drugs, they can also categorize in many categories, but in general, alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, pan masala, or gutka, all these they come under the category of drugs. Now, let's talk about next topic, that is AIDS. So, what is the full form of AIDS? AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, and this AIDS, it is transmitted by a virus which is known as HIV. Now, what is this HIV? HIV stands for human immunovirus. Well, it is one of the factors which is responsible for many deaths across the year. Other modes through which HIV can be spread are AIDS can be transmitted, or AIDS is transmitted when a syringe contaminated with HIV is shared between drug users. That is why this topic, drugs and AIDS, it is given together. Now, it is also spread through unsafe sexual contact with an infected person, and it can also spread from an infected mother to child. So, now this is all about this chapter, adolescence.